The studio lights of The View beamed down with their usual midday intensity, bouncing off the glossy stage floor and catching the sheen of Joy Behar's red blazer. The crowd, a lively mix of devoted fans and curious onlookers, hummed with excitement. They knew when The View promised a special guest, fireworks were always a possibility, and today's lineup was no exception. "Ladies and gentlemen," Joy said, her voice smooth and commanding as she addressed the audience, "please welcome Senator John Fetterman." The audience erupted into applause as the tall, broad-shouldered senator strode confidently onto the stage. Dressed in his signature black Carhartt hoodie, shorts, and work boots, he cut a striking figure against the sea of polished hosts. The contrast wasn't lost on anyone. Fetterman grinned as he shook a few hands, gave a casual wave to the audience, and took his seat at the round table beside Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, and Alyssa Farah Griffin. "Senator, welcome," Whoopi said, smiling warmly. "We don't often get folks who show up looking like they could fix the lights and pass a bill at the same time." The audience laughed, and Fetterman chuckled. "Well, Whoopi, I figured I'd rather be comfortable telling the truth than uncomfortable playing a part." Joy tilted her head slightly, smiling in that way she did before she struck. "You know, John," she said, "you've been called the blue-collar senator, but don't you think maybe you're taking that a bit too literally with, well, the outfit?" Fetterman leaned back, relaxed but alert. "You mean the hoodie? I've been wearing these for years. I wore one when I won my election, wore one when I voted, and I'll probably wear one when I'm retired. It's not a costume, it's just me." Joy's smile didn't falter. "I get that, but when you represent the country, there's a certain level of decorum expected. Don't you think the people you serve deserve someone who looks like a senator?" Fetterman's tone stayed calm, but there was a flicker of steel in his eyes. "Joy, the people I serve don't need me to look like anything. They need me to fight for them. I could wear a tuxedo every day, and it wouldn't mean a thing if I wasn't doing the job." The audience responded with a low rumble of applause and murmurs of agreement. Whoopi smiled, leaning forward slightly, clearly enjoying the tension brewing. "Well," she said lightly, "I think he looks just fine." But Joy wasn't letting it go. "Sure, but let's be real here," she said. "You're on national television, representing millions of people, and you look like you just came from Home Depot." "That's different," Fetterman grinned. "You say that like it's an insult. The folks at Home Depot are the ones who build this country. If I remind them of themselves, I think that's a good thing." That earned him cheers and applause from parts of the audience. Joy blinked, momentarily thrown off. "All right, fair enough," she said with a shrug, "but we also have to talk about some of your more colorful comments about Washington. You called DC a circus, and you said politicians act like performers more than public servants. That's a pretty strong statement for someone now sitting under bright studio lights." The crowd chuckled, sensing a shift. Fetterman, unbothered, met her gaze squarely. "Joy, that's kind of the point. This," he motioned around the stage, "this setup right here, it's a performance. Everyone's got their role, their lines, their camera angles. But when real life hits, when people are losing their jobs or their homes, there's no script for that. And that's what Washington forgets." The air in the room changed. The laughter died down, replaced by a hush that wasn't uncomfortable but charged. Fetterman's words landed like, "Wait." Whoopi gave a soft, knowing nod. Joy's voice tightened just slightly. "So are you saying we're not being real here, Senator?" Fetterman leaned forward. "I'm saying you're doing what you're paid to do, Joy, ask hard questions, challenge people. But let's be honest. When those questions start stepping on certain toes, that's when people get uncomfortable. Authenticity makes people nervous." There was a pause. The crowd murmured. Even Sunny Hostin looked impressed, her eyebrows raised. Joy forced a laugh. "Oh, I'm not uncomfortable. I've been making powerful people nervous for years." Fetterman nodded. "Good. Then we're on the same team." The audience laughed again, but there was something deeper beneath the humor. It wasn't just a sparring match now, it was a philosophical divide, laid bare in front of millions of viewers. Joy tried to steer the conversation back into safer waters. "All right, well, let's talk policy for a second. You've been pretty outspoken about the dysfunction in Washington. Some would say that kind of language doesn't help the country come together." Fetterman didn't miss a beat. "Sometimes you can't fix dysfunction by pretending it doesn't exist. You have to call it out. You can't clean up a mess if everyone's busy arguing about who spilled it." Whoopi clapped softly, grinning. "That's a bar, Senator. But Joy wasn't done. Her tone sharpened, just a hair. So when you say dysfunction, are you including your own party? Because some people think you've been throwing Democrats under the bus lately. Fetterman nodded slowly, choosing his words with precision. If you're on a sinking ship, it doesn't matter who poked the hole, you grab a bucket and start bailing. I'll call out anyone, Democrat or Republican, if they're putting politics before people. That's my job. The next morning, the internet was ablaze. Clips from the tense segment between Senator John Fetterman and Joy Behar were everywhere: TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Every platform had its own version, with captions screaming in bold letters, "Fetterman destroys the view." Or, "Joy Behar silenced on live TV." Some users slowed down the footage frame by frame, zooming in on Joy's stunned expression when Fetterman had said, "Authenticity makes people nervous." The comments poured in by the thousands. Greater than, finally, someone called them out. Joy couldn't handle a real person. Fetterman kept it classy while she tried to play TV politics. Within hours, the video had millions of views. News outlets picked it up next. Entertainment Tonight called it a live television moment that redefined The View. The Hollywood Reporter labeled it a rare example of unfiltered truth in daytime television. Even Fox News and CNN, two networks that rarely agreed on anything, covered it from opposite angles. Behind the scenes, chaos reigned at ABC. Producers from The View were in crisis meetings, trying to contain the fallout. "This wasn't supposed to happen," one executive muttered as she reviewed the clip again. "We were supposed to have a light segment about bipartisanship and image in politics, not this." Joy Behar, meanwhile, was seething. She sat in her dressing room, scrolling through headlines on her tablet, her jaw tightening with each one. "They're turning me into the villain," she muttered. Her publicist tried to calm her down. "Joy, it'll blow over in a week. These viral things always do." Joy glared at him. "No, it won't. He played it perfectly. He came in looking like the people's hero and made me look like the establishment. And now everyone's eating it up." While she stewed, John Fetterman was on a plane back to Pennsylvania. He'd left New York quietly that morning, hoodie up, no entourage, no press conference. He sat by the window as the sun rose, scrolling through messages on his phone. Some were from reporters asking for comment, others from friends and supporters cheering him on. But one stood out, from Whoopi Goldberg. "Greater than, you did what most people don't have the guts to do. You told the truth on live TV. Don't let the noise get to you." Fetterman smiled faintly, pocketing his phone. When he landed, there was already a crowd waiting outside the airport, supporters holding signs that read, "Real recognizes real," and "John speaks for US." He stopped briefly to shake hands and thank them before heading to his car. Cameras followed him all the way to his next town hall event. Inside the packed community center, the energy was electric. When he walked in, the applause was deafening. A local journalist called out from the front row, "Senator, can we get a comment about The View?" Fetterman grinned. "You mean the show or The View from Washington?" The crowd erupted in laughter. He held up a hand for silence. "Look, I didn't go on that show to fight anybody. I went on to talk about working people, about honesty, about how we fix this country." But somewhere along the line, talking straight became controversial. Applause thundered through the hall again. People stood up, cheering, clapping, some even whistling. Meanwhile, back in New York, ABC's communications team was working overtime. The View's next episode opened with Whoopi addressing the elephant in the room. "Yesterday got a little heated," she said. "We don't always agree on this table. That's kinda the point of this show. But we respect everyone who sits here, even when things get fiery." Joy added quickly, "And for the record, I respect Senator Fetterman. I just think he could have used a blazer." The audience laughed politely, but it felt forced. The moment didn't land the way it used to. Something had shifted. Over the next few days, talk shows, podcasts, and political analysts dissected the exchange like it was a State of the Union address. Late-night hosts cracked jokes about Joy Behar versus the hoodie. Memes circulated showing Fetterman's face photoshopped on superheroes with captions like, "The Authentic Avenger." But beyond the memes and jokes, there was a deeper undercurrent. People were genuinely talking about what Fetterman had said, the performative nature of politics, the disconnect between Washington and working-class America, and the idea that truth often gets drowned out by sound bites. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. "Greater than, Fetterman didn't just clap back. He exposed how fake our media conversations have become. By the end of the week, Joy Behar agreed to a sit-down interview with Good Morning America to clear the air. When asked about Fetterman, she smiled tightly. "Listen, I respect passion. But I also believe there's a time and place for everything. He wanted to make a point, and he did. I just wish he'd done it with a little less attitude." The interviewer raised a brow. "You mean like how you've handled politicians for 20 years? Joy laughed, but her eyes flickered. "Touché." The story continued to simmer. Fetterman's approval ratings saw a noticeable bump. His communications team tried to keep up with the flood of interview requests, invitations to podcasts, and offers from media outlets. But he declined almost all of them. Instead, he chose to address the nation directly through his own social media feed. Sitting in his home office, hoodie on, the same plain wooden background behind him, he started a livestream that quickly drew over 500,000 viewers. "I've seen all the headlines," he began. "I've seen the memes. But let's get real for a second. That moment on The View wasn't about me versus Joy Behar. It was about how disconnected our public conversations have become. We spend more time performing than solving problems." He paused, leaning forward. "You shouldn't need a stylist, a slogan, or a PR team to tell the truth. You should just need the guts to do it."